right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I'm your host, Barrett Gruber. You can follow me across all of social media at Barrett Gruber. If you want to participate in the show, you can chat with us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, all of those places. You can find links at the top of the webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. Again, please follow and subscribe. I know I said again, I didn't mean again. Please follow and subscribe wherever it is you are hearing us. Let's see. It's Monday, right? June 1st. And I want you to know that when I woke up this morning, fully intending to have a very calm, peaceful start to the week, I took a look at the news and I figured out exactly where it is that we are. Before we get started into the chaos, though, and there is plenty of chaos to start with, real quick, shout out to our podcast, the All About Nothing podcast, episode number 308, dropped today. Sat down with O'Shawn McClendon and Shelby Spencer, who are frequent guests of the show. We had a very real, honest conversation about voting, sobriety, and activism. 3 topics that honestly belong in the same room together way more than people realize. So go ahead, check that out. There are links in the show notes as well as the description. I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody again at the end of the show so that there are no excuses. There's no reason to miss out. Now, let's talk about this country. So, okay, first, I need you to understand something. So, the Great American State Fair, a 16-day event on the National Mall organized to celebrate America's 250th birthday, has completely collapsed in terms of its entertainment lineup. And here is the truly beautiful part. It doesn't even start until June 25th. That's insane to me. We're 3.5 weeks out. The thing hasn't even opened yet, and it's already a pile of rubble with a MAGA hat on top, right? So here's the backstory. The event is organized by a group called Freedom 250. It is a White House established initiative tied directly to the Trump administration. Now, on paper, the concept isn't offensive. Patriotic fair on the mall, all 50 states being bringing exhibits. It's a little bit of culture, a little music, celebrate the country. Michigan is apparently bringing a mechanical milking cow. And I want you to sit down for a second. We are celebrating 250 years of American innovation and democracy. And Michigan said, you know what represents us? A robot cow. I respect it, honestly. At least Michigan showed up with an answer. So last Wednesday, Freedom 250 dropped their first wave of concert performers. And let me just read this lineup to you. And I want you to hear all of it in its full glory. All right. Martina McBride. I have met her in my past working in radio. Very lovely human being. Never actually even occurred to me that she was political in any way. I mean, it's been 25, almost 30 years, but incredibly lovely human being. Very kind. Bret Michaels from Poison, the Commodores, Morris Day and the Time, Young MC, Flo Rida, Vanilla Ice, CNC Music Factory, and Milli Vanilli. Now, I'm not going to clown the artists too hard because here's the thing. They didn't want to be there either, okay? Within 24 hours, most of them had already been out the door. Here's what's happening, though. The majority of these performers say they were flat out misled. They thought they were signing up for a nonpartisan celebration of the country's birthday, like a big state fair, not a Trump event. Martina McBride even posted on her Instagram saying she was presented with an opportunity to perform at a nonpartisan event, but that turned out to be misleading. She said things started changing once she looked closer at what she actually agreed to. And look, I want to be clear, Martina McBride is not exactly the leftist radical. I mean, she's not. She's a country star. She performed at state fairs her whole career. If Martina McBride is saying, wait a minute, this is too political for me, that tells you something about how politically charged this event actually is. Bret Michaels, frontman for Poison, a guy who has been openly friendly with MAGA politics, he even pulled out, citing divisiveness and safety concerns. Bret Michaels, safety concerns at basically his own party. Sir, right? Young MC said the performers were never told about any political involvement, and then they bounced. By the end of the week, 6 of the 9 announced performers had withdrawn. The remaining acts still scheduled are Vanilla Ice, Flo Rida, and in a legally complicated maybe CNC Music Factory. So the lineup for the Great American 250 Birthday Concert is currently Vanilla Ice, Flo Rida, and a hard question mark. America is 250 years old, and this is what we've got. Now here, this is where it goes fully absurd. Trump posted on Truth Social over the weekend and suggested that they should just cancel all of the music entirely. He called the performers overpriced singers who nobody wants to hear and literally said, quote, cancel it. The president of the United States told the organizers of his own event to cancel it. And then in the very next breath, he suggested that he should take the stage instead. He described himself as the man who gets much larger audiences than Elvis in his prime without a guitar. Without a guitar. He just volunteered to replace the entire concert lineup with himself standing on stage without a guitar. And Freedom 250 confirmed it. Trump will personally headline the opening ceremony. So just to recap the full arc here, they planned a nonpartisan concert. It turned out to be partisan. The artists quit. The president calls them losers. The president canceled the concert. The president became the concert. That is not event planning. That is a hostage situation where the hostage taker also books the venue. Now, important context, because there is real confusion out there. There are 2 separate organizations doing 250th anniversary events. America 250 is the nonpartisan, Congress-established commission that's planning and been planning community events all over the country for years. They have been planning this for more than 8 or 9 years, like 10 years. Freedom 250 is the White House initiative doing the mall events. Several of these artists apparently thought they were performing for America 250. They were actually booked through Freedom 250. It was a bait and switch for some of them. That's the thing they burned the whole lineup down with. And Freedom 250 is also, by the way, organizing a UFC fight on the White House South Lawn, which we're going to talk about. And I need to say something before I get started into this segment, because I am a person of nuance and complexity, okay? The UFC White House fight card on paper is actually a decent card from a pure sports standpoint. And I want to acknowledge that the main event is Topuria versus, and I know I'm going to get the name wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway, Gathia? I don't know. For the lightweight title. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I don't know anything about UFC. I have a hard time watching people kick each other in the nuts and not feel it. So it's difficult for me to have a lot of sympathy for the UFC thing. There's an interim heavyweight championship fight between Alex Pereira and Syria Gain. I'm saying these names wrong. I realize that. Those are actually real fights. Those are real athletes. If this card was announced at a normal venue, fight fans would probably be excited about it. But it's not a normal venue. It's the South Lawn of the White House on June 14th, which is also, by the way, Donald Trump's 80th birthday. This is the first president in history to reach the age of 80 this early in his presidency. Just pointing that out for anybody that feels like Biden was older, which Biden is in age older, but Donald Trump is older at this point in his presidency than Biden was at this point in presidency. Dana White and Donald Trump cooked up all of this together, which means this isn't just a sporting event. It is a birthday party that also has a UFC card, or a UFC card that is also a birthday party. Nobody's really fully sure which one is the main event. Now the drama. John Jones, which I know, even though I'm not really in on a lot of the UFC world, but one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport, specifically came out of retirement because he wanted a spot on this card. He trained, he waited, He made himself available. And when Dana White announced the lineup, Jones wasn't on it. White said that Jones was never considered for the White House card, just never. Didn't even cross his mind, apparently. John Jones reported by requesting a complete release from his UFC contract. He's basically asked, let me out. Just blew the whole thing up. And honestly, I get it. You come back out of retirement for one specific thing. The one specific thing then doesn't happen. And the guy running it says you were never even a consideration. That would make anyone flip a table. Tickets wise, there's about 4,300 people that get to actually watch it on the South Lawn. A third of those are going to be military members and their families, which fine, that's a good thing. Another third of those are going to be White House staff and VIPs, and 200 tickets are going to be handled by the UFC directly. So if you were thinking about going, you probably weren't ever going to get to go. Also, it broke this morning that Hegseth, apparently there was a memo going around that indicates that for military members that want to go, they have to meet a certain physical threshold, which includes like weight, pant size for men, and then some fairly strict size measurements for women. So, Hegseth is going to do it. I think one of the direct comments was no fatties. So I'm not invited. Dana White, for his part, has been asked about weather concerns for an outdoor event in June in Washington, D.C., which is legitimately a concern because D.C. in June is basically a swamp with monuments. His response was legendary. He said, rain, they fight. Wind, they fight. Bugs, they fight. Humidity, they fight. The one thing that stops the show, lightning. That's it. Lightning is the one acceptable interruption. And look, I disagree with basically everything about the politics of this event, but that right there, that is probably the most fight person answer possible. The whole country is in chaos. There's a war in the Middle East. The economy is rattled, and Dana White is out here saying we are fighting through everything except a lightning strike. Got to respect the energy, even if nothing else about this makes any sense. So we're going to turn to South Carolina. I want you to come in close, pull up a chair, because the Republican gubernatorial primary is 8 days away, and this weekend delivered actual drama. First, let me set the table. We have 5 candidates in the Republican primary to replace term-limited Governor Henry McMaster's, an age-limited probably a little bit, even though there is no actual constitutional law that prevents him from. I mean, he can only be governor for 2 full terms, or he can only run for governor twice and win. So we have Attorney General Alan Wilson, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, Congressman Ralph Norman, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and State Senator Josh Kimbrell. It's 5 people. There's no clear dominant frontrunner, which means this almost certainly will go to a runoff on June 23rd between the 2 top vote getters. Now, the bombshell from this past Friday is that Trump endorsed Pamela Evette. This was a backroom deal, and anyone that says that it wasn't is fooling themselves, because Trump was always going to endorse Pamela Evette. He even made a deal, backroom deal. This is alleged, but there is an alleged theory that Trump was involved with the push for the South Carolina Senate to vote positively on the redistricting, and that Governor McMaster's had to call a special session. This was Trump's idea. In order to get the redistricting to go through, and that he was withholding his endorsement of Pamela Evette until that occurred. McMaster's upheld his end. He called a special session. He had, the House and the Senate, try and vote, but the senators backed out of it. We were already voting. So, we had already done as voters what we needed to do. I mean, we're seeing record numbers at the polls in early voting here in South Carolina, and I'm for it. But what's great is that the Republican senators did not back up their own outgoing governor. Okay, so back to this. It's significant that Trump endorsed Pamela Abbott for a lot of reasons, but mostly because of what it means for Nancy Mace. Mace has been positioning herself as the MAGA candidate in this race from the jump. She's been working to lock down Trump's support for months. She bet her whole strategy on being the person Trump would choose. And on Friday, Trump looked at the field and picked Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, the woman who has been sitting quietly, and I do mean quietly, been sitting quietly in second place this whole time, not generating any controversy except for the fact that she doesn't know how many districts, House seats there are in South Carolina, which seems like an easy thing to know considering you work in the building where all of those, House representatives also work. She's kind of just been running steady, methodical, barely campaigning as far as I'm concerned. Mace posted on social media calling herself the Iron Lady after the endorsement news dropped. And I appreciate the spirit. I really do. But I got to be honest with you. Calling yourself the Iron Lady the same day Trump picks someone else over you, it's a very specific kind of defiance. It's like getting cut from the team and walking back onto the practice field, bold, possibly unhinged, but definitely bold. She also is framing herself as the anti-establishment candidate, even though she is a sitting member of Congress who is, until very recently, was trying to get the approval of the most powerful Republican in the country. And I'm not saying the messaging doesn't work. I'm just saying it's a lot to hold at one time. Now, here's what I've been noticing, and you may have noticed it too if you watch TV locally here in South Carolina. There are virtually no Nancy Mace ads on the air right now, but there are plenty of ads that attack her. A secretive Virginia-based group dropped over $1 million on attack ads against her just in the last month of May. She's being hit from outside groups, from rival campaigns, from multiple directions, and she's not matching that air presence with her own counter messaging. In a race this close, she's basically going dark on advertising, and we're in the final stretch of this very dangerous play. Alan Wilson is still in this. Alan Wilson, he is the four-time Attorney General, credited, credentialed, methodical. He has been very careful not to get pulled into the Mace drama, but his numbers have been slipping as the field consolidated around other candidates. Ralph Norman is still kind of in the mix. He's polling slightly ahead of Mace in most recent numbers. Josh Kimbrell is running out of runway. Here's my honest read on this. The Republican primary for governor of South Carolina, 8 days out, is a race between Pamela Abbott, who just got the most powerful endorsement available despite the fact that he is dementiated to all shit, and a field of candidates trying to figure out how to respond. The question of whether Mace's defiant, anti-establishment energy survives Trump's snub in the next 8 days is genuinely one that is more interesting politically than anything I've seen in the state lately. I will tell you this as a progressive. None of these candidates represent what I'd want for South Carolina, but I believe firmly in having an informed electorate, and I believe in people participating in their own governance. Whatever the primary puts in them, or whatever primary turns out, we will talk about it more as the early voting continues. And then, of course, primary day is June 9th, which is next Tuesday. And we will do an episode on Wednesday after the primaries. Need to shift gears here completely because I want to talk about something that isn't getting enough attention in the regular news cycle. Probably because we've been distracted by the mechanical cows and vanilla ice cancellations. And look, I understand why. The entertainment is compelling. But this next story is genuinely one of the most consequential things happening in the world right now. The U.S.-Iran war, and yes, we should call it what it is, because on February 28th, when the United States and Israel launched surprise attacks against Iran, targeting military infrastructure, those strikes killed Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. His son has since been named successor. In response, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. Now, here's why it matters for you and I. Sitting wherever it is you are, not anywhere near the Persian Gulf, before this conflict, about 20% of the world's seaborne oil trade and 20% of the global liquefied natural gas moved through this strait every single month. 3,000 vessels a month. That waterway is basically a toll road for a significant chunk of the world's energy supply. When it closes, the price of everything that runs on energy, which is everything, goes up. You've already felt it at the pump. That's not a coincidence. There was a ceasefire in April, brokered by Pakistan. The U.S. and Iran had their highest level direct talks in literally 47 years. J.D. Vance met with Iran's parliament speaker in Islamabad. And think about that. We hadn't talked at that level since the Carter administration. Those talks failed. And when they failed, the U.S. launched a naval blockade of Iranian ports on April 13th. Iran then reclosed the strait. The U.S. said the closure was completely unacceptable. Iran said the blockade was a violation of the ceasefire, and here we are. Now, as of today, this is breaking as of this morning, Iran has announced through state media that they are cutting off all negotiations with the United States through intermediaries completely. No more back channel communication. They are now threatening to fully seal the Strait of Hormuz, not just the partial restriction that's been in place, but a complete, total closure. They're also talking about activating the Bab al-Mandab Strait, another critical choke point, basically just as additional leverage. Their conditions for any de-escalations include Israel's full withdrawal from occupied areas of Lebanon and stopping attacks in Lebanon and Gaza. So the Strait of Hormuz situation is now directly tied to the Gaza and Lebanon conflicts. It's all one tangled knob. Knot. Knob? Yeah, knot. Ship traffic through the strait now is at about 5% of pre-war levels. 5%. Oil prices are still significantly elevated from where they were in January. I was paying $2.23 a gallon, and now I filled up last week for $3.50 something. I don't know. Oil prices are still significantly elevated. The UK and France have been holding diplomatic conferences trying to find a path forward, and nobody has found it yet. And I want to say this plainly. This is not an abstract geopolitical story. This is a story about what happens when we start wars without fully thinking of what that closing off 20% of the world's oil supply does to the global stability and to working people's lives. The price you pay for gas, for groceries, for utilities, it connects directly back to all of this. And we owe it to ourselves to stay informed about what's happening, what's being done in our name, and what the real costs are. We're going to keep covering this. We have to. But we're going to turn it around a little bit, come back to South Carolina. We talked about voting on episode 308 with O'Shawn and Shelby. We laid out why it matters. Now, let me give you the nuts and bolts, because knowing why to vote is great, but knowing how and when is when actually gets ballots counted. South Carolina's statewide primary is Tuesday, June 9th. That's only 8 days away. But here's the thing. You don't have to wait till January 9th. Early voting is open right now, today, and it runs through Friday, June 5th. You can walk in today and cast your ballot. Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 in the afternoon. Early voting centers are closed on the weekends, so just be aware of that. To find your specific location, you go to scvotes.gov. It's the South Carolina Election Commission's website. You can pull up your county. You find the nearest center. It takes 2 minutes to find. It takes less time than watching one of my videos on your phone. What you need is a valid ID, photo ID, required by law. Don't show up without it. Don't let that be the reason your vote doesn't happen. So here's something people don't always know. South Carolina does not register voters by party. You are not registered as a Democrat or a Republican. You just show up. You pick the primary and you vote. You can vote in the Republican primary or you can vote in the Democratic primary. not both. You make the choice at the poll. So if you want to weigh in on who becomes the Republican nominee for governor, you can do that. If you want to vote for the Democratic primary instead, you're right to do that. And I get asked why vote early. I'm going to give you 3 quick reasons. 1, life fucking happens. Election day, something comes up. Your car won't start. You can't get out of work. You oversleep. Early voting gives you a 2-week window to work around life. Second reason, early voting lines are almost always shorter than election day lines. You're not competing with anyone else around you. There's no reason to put it off to the last minute. Reason 3, and this is the real one, primary turnout is low. But even in South Carolina, this primary, this early voting primary, they're seeing record numbers that they haven't seen. And we're above what voted in 2024, and today is Monday. There are 4 days left after today. That means your vote counts more. In a 5-person race, where the difference between making the runoff and not making the runoff could be a few hundred votes in your county, every single vote is amplified. So go to scvotes.gov, find your location, go this week. Tell somebody else to go this week. That's how it works. And look, I know some folks feel like there's nobody on the ballot that they're truly connected to. They're not excited about. And I hear that, okay? I do have several candidates that I am excited about, one of them being Dr. Jermaine Johnson. I want to see him make it through this primary and be the nominee for the Democratic Party for governor. I think he by far stands out as one of the best candidates that I've seen since I moved here to South Carolina. I think that he would represent and he would govern the state of South Carolina, not just for the Democrats, but he would govern it for all of the people in South Carolina because he has a history of working with Republicans on legislation. He's not evil. He's not ever done anything to give anyone the impression that he has something to gain from being governor for the Democrats. He will be the governor for everyone. And I think everyone that's listening to this should take a hard look and really, really give consideration to voting for Dr. Jermaine Johnson. It's not an endorsement because I have a history of not endorsing very well, but I think Dr. Jermaine Johnson's fantastic. All right. I'll say, don't be disengaged, okay? If you become disengaged, it just means other people make decisions for you. So show up, make the count, make the vote. Let your voice be your voice. I said a lot, but that is going to wrap it up for today's Kind of Daily Show. Let me give you a quick rundown of everything we covered. The Great American State Fair is falling apart 3 weeks before it even opens. 6 of 9 of the performers have quit. Trump canceled the concert, and then Trump became the concert. Freedom 250 is not the same thing as American 250. Please recognize and know the difference. The USC White House fight card on June 14th is actually a solid card from a sports standpoint, but John Jones got disrespected, requested his release, and Dana White is prepared to fight through everything except lightning. South Carolina governor's race just got rocked by Trump's endorsement of Pamela Evette, leaving Nancy Mace to call herself the Iron Lady while running out of cover on the ad front, and we are 8 days away from that primary. Iran has cut negotiations off with the United States and is threatening to fully seal the Strait of Hormuz. This is serious. This is affecting your wallet, so stay informed on that. And early voting in South Carolina is open now through Friday. scvotes.gov. Photo ID, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Go vote. The primary is next Tuesday if you don't get a chance to vote early. One more time before I'm out, episode 308 is live today. Me, O'Shawn McClendon, and Shelby Spencer talking about voting, sobriety, and activism. It is real. It is honest. It is the kind of conversation that needs to happen more often. You can find links in the show notes. Tune in next week. Well, I'll be back Wednesday. I think I'll be back Wednesday. But tune in next week because part 2 of that conversation with O'Shawn and Shelby is coming up. We went deeper. You want to be there for it. So thank you very much for rocking it with me tonight. Stay informed, stay engaged. Please also thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget you can follow me at Barrett Gruber across all social media. Thank you for liking and hitting that bell. And if you can, give us a 5-star review and leave a comment. Until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself.